Can you believe that one of cinema's most unlikely superheroes, a grotesquely deformed, mop wielding mutant born from toxic waste, would go on to become a beloved cult icon, inspire sequels, cartoons, comic books, musicals, and even video games? And now on to a big budget reboot starring Peter Dinklage. Welcome to the radioactive, absurd, and strangely heartfelt universe of the Toxic Avenger. The story of the Toxic Avenger begins with the wild imagination of Lloyd Kaufman and Michael Herz, co founders of the independent Troma Entertainment, a company that was notorious for producing shocking, gore laced satire movies. In 1984, they brought to life the Toxic Avenger. Set in the fictional town of Tromaville, New Jersey, known as the toxic chemical capital of the world, the film tells the tale of Melvin Ferd Junko III, a scrawny janitor at a health club who was relentlessly bullied. One day, after a cruel prank, he stumbles into a vat of toxic waste, and rather than dying, he is transformed into a monster, a muscle bound creature who is out for justice. Thus was born the Toxic Avenger, affectionately known as Toxie, a mop wielding Avenger who is out to clean up the city from radioactive criminals, street thugs, and corrupt politicians. Though initially ignored upon release, the Toxic Avenger found its audience through midnight screenings, most notably in New York Bleecker Street Cinema, where word of mouth built it into a cult sensation. Viewers were captivated by the grotesque violence, the slapstick comedy, and the bizarre charm of the characters. More than a parody of superhero tropes, it was a punk rock response to the polished Hollywood blockbusters that we know of today. It was truly an incredible sight, something that viewers had never seen before. After the theaters, the film would still have great success. As a VHS, the film would reach even more people, and Troma would double down on their flagship character. In 1989, they would release two sequels, Toxic Avenger Part 2 and Toxic Avenger Part 3, The Last Temptation of Toxie. These were both filmed in one massive production. The footage was ultimately split up into two continuing films, creating a trio of films through the franchise. They added new depth to the characters, new battles, and new villains. It created a brand new light onto the characters and created something that hadn't been seen before from an independent movie studio, a trilogy of movies based off a unique superhero. Both of the sequels would struggle to capture the same success as the original film, but they would be seen as cult classics as well, as part of the original movie, and would continue to build upon the story of Toxie. In 2000, they would return with Citizen Toxie, The Toxic Avenger 4, which many fans consider the true successor of the 1984 film. Even though the two sequels that came in 1989 did not have the same success as that later fourth film or the original, it was still decided that they would create something more for Toxic Avenger. They knew the market could grow, and in an unexpected twist, one of the most bizarre things, probably one of the most 90s things that could have happened, was they took this grotesque, bizarre, nudity filled movie and turned it into a kid friendly cartoon in 1991. It would be titled Toxic Crusaders and would be an animated series that would follow Toxie and his friends as they battled evil. Gone were gore, gone was the nudity. Instead, children got a slapstick comedy about environmental messages and anti pollution themes. It would only last 13 episodes, but it would propel the character into the world of video games. In 1992, at the height of the Toxic Crusaders' popularity, Toxie would be put into his own video game, which, if you are a 90s kid, you probably vividly remember playing this on the NES or Sega. It was one of the most bizarre, most interesting games you could have played. You were a toxic being with a mop in hand taking on the villains of the world. This unique character was able to go from an adult, midnight showing superhero to a kid friendly cartoon and video game that now had merchandising opportunities for children in the form of toys and other areas. Gone were the days of the adult themed character, and now he was more children oriented, focused on delivering good, strong messages and a fun video game experience. The character of Toxie had transcended adulthood to childhood, making a connection many never thought would be possible with such a grotesque character. Another unique part of the Toxic Avenger story would come in the 90s as well, when he would join the Marvel Universe, being created as part of a Marvel comic book series. However, it would not last very long and be very unpopular and would showcase the fact that Marvel Comics was dying during the early and mid 90s. The Toxic Avenger was truly one of the most 90s things out there. If you were a kid of the 90s or early 2000s, you definitely remember this iconic character. But now the question is, can the Toxic Avenger have success in today's world? Could the character make a comeback? Well, in 2025, the movie is premiering once again, a brand new reboot to a new audience, to new fans, and the legacy of the Toxic Avenger will live on. The Toxic Avenger's goal is to prove that it's not just a cult classic, that the character can once again become a cultural icon and still have relevance in today's 2025 market. It'll be very interesting to see how the film does with Peter Dinklage as the star. What are your thoughts on the reboot in the new movie? If you asked me 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I would have said the Toxic Avenger would have died in the 90s. Thanks so much for watching. We appreciate all of you. Believable truths.